Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, deadly Seattle encampment moves just 2 blocks away. Oh, that should really fix things. But before we get to any of that, my friends, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I saw this over on the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction. So Chris Rakedahl has his people doing social media, and they're not real good at it. We have seen for years now a decline in student grades. Bad grade, bad grade, bad grade, bad grade, bad grade. That's what we keep seeing. We keep seeing that kids are below reading levels, below writing levels, below math levels. And you're talking about what? 2/3 of those kids? They tried lowering standards during COVID to say, well, since the kids aren't getting a real education, we got to pass them anyway because we can't just keep repeating all these grades. They tried pass, fail. And there are repercussions to trying these failed ideas where the grades get worse and worse and worse. But let's also remember that regarding all this insanity, nobody's done anything to try and make it better. You had all the learning loss from COVID, and nobody said to themselves, hey, maybe we should keep the kids in school an extra hour a day, or maybe we should add some days to the school year, or maybe we should do something. I mean, I was discussing this with my own kids' school where they get out at 3:45 every day. And I said, you know, some of those East Coast schools, they're there till 5 o'clock. When I was in high school, I got there at 8 a.m. and I was there till 5 o'clock every day without extracurriculars. And my extracurriculars usually kept me there till 7, 8 o'clock at night. Yes, I was in school that long most days in high school. I said, that's what you have to compete with. So when you have to compete with this kind of stuff, it's going to take a lot to fix it. And here, letting kids out at 2:30, letting kids out at 3 o'clock, you claim they're getting the best education. They're not. Our school year is shorter. So naturally, you're going to have these problems. And then when you put inside of that, you put all the DEI insanity with it too, you're taking up time that could be spent on real discussions and instead having things about who somebody's pronouns are. That's not actually productive. So now, it seems like the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, Chris Rakedahl, has had enough of this. And he says, this is what they posted. Some groups are pushing a false narrative that kids can't read or kids can't do math. Stop. These are your numbers, bro. These are the numbers from your website. These are the numbers from the National Report Card, which was done under the Biden administration. And your rationale for this when these numbers came out was, well, we're in the middle of the pack. So what you're saying is everybody's grades in public schools across the U.S. suck, but because we're at the upper end of the middle, we're okay? Wow, bravo, bravo. That's like saying, you know, them New York Mets, they're doing better than most people in their division, but they're still not doing great in the league. So you know what? They're one of the best teams in baseball. Hey, I can be real about my team. I really can. I can't say it about the Mariners this year. They're actually doing pretty well right now. They go on to say, everyone wants kids to learn, grow, and be successful. You guys don't. That's fake news. That's not true. You guys don't want that at all. How do I know? Because you've never done anything to make them learn, grow, or be successful. You'd rather brainwash them. Public education's most prominent critics are no different, however, in their campaign to undermine public education. These same groups insult students and their families by misrepresenting data and promoting unsupported claims. 1, I repeat again, these are your numbers. 2, I'll say again, these are your numbers. So what data are we misrepresenting? What unsupported claims are we making? Said combined, these messages undermine faith in public education, while also questioning the intelligence of Washington's 1.1 million public school students. If you cared about this, you would fix it. Nobody's saying the kids are dumb. We're saying the kids are being given a terrible education. You guys are the ones giving it to them. You know, I get a lot of backlash, actually, from teachers and public school parents who say, Ari, well, my kid's school is good. Great. You're the exception, not the rule. Ari, us teachers are trying our best, but you wouldn't believe the restrictions they're placing on us. Well, you just prove my point. You're trying your best and you want to do your best, but you're burdened by a system that is screwing everybody over. You're only making my point for me. And I know every time I talk about the public schools, I get hate mail. Every single time. But you know the difference between me and, let's say, Bob Ferguson? Bob Ferguson sends his kids to private school. So for him, he can make these schools as indoctrinating as he wants. His kids don't actually experience it. Me, the guy who went to private school, is saying, I want every single one of these public schools as good as a private school, and what you guys are doing are backward steps. Can you imagine if the next time there was a contract negotiation with a teacher union, you said, we'll give you all the money you want, but we want to extend the school day an hour. 1 hour every day. They would march on the school district. They would freak out. These are the same teachers who were refusing to come back to class and would rather vacation during COVID. You remember the head of the Chicago Teachers Union who was encouraging her union members not to go back to class and was hanging out in, I forget if it was Aruba, Jamaica, ooh, I want to take you to Bermuda, Bahama, but she was in one of those places, and she was posting pictures from there while telling everybody we shouldn't go back. It's not safe. It's not safe. I want the public schools to be better. And if they're not going to be better, then it's time to figure out something different. But Chris Reykdal isn't saying that. Chris Reykdal on OSPI is saying, you're being mean. Stop saying the mean things about the kids. Don't be mean to them. The kids can hear you. First of all, you think the kids are listening to any of these political discussions? They're doing the latest TikTok dance. Or they're playing video games. Or they're watching whatever else it is on social media. Or they're looking at Taylor Swift's new album track release. They are not listening to any of these political discussions. Guaranteed. They're right. Kids are smart. They need all our support and encouragement. Anybody here ever see Grown Ups 2? All right, the first one was good. The second one was a bit of a miss. But I still like those stupid movies. You know Kevin James's son in that? Where he can't do math, he can't do anything right, and the mom just keeps going, yeah, that's right, sweetie, yeah, that's correct. That's what Chris Reykdal is doing right now. That's literally what he's doing. They need our support and encouragement. All right, kid, what's 1 + 1? Oranges. Oh, that's right. Fantastic. Well done, child. Really well done. He says it's another thing entirely to assert that students can't read or do math. We're not the ones asserting that. Your own numbers show that. It's your numbers. Now, this thing on its own would be bad enough. They posted it to Facebook. They included a video. Now, this video is going to sound awful on your ears, and it's mostly visual. This thing is terrible. I shared it over on social media. It is awful. Basically what it is somebody took a bunch of emojis, you know, those little smiley faces and other symbols you put after a text or a message, and then put all these messages here saying, oh, kids feel bad. The kids are sad. Stop making fun of the children. Dude, this video is terrible. Whoever's doing your social media needs to be fired. This is an assault on the ears. It really, really is. In fact, you know what? I'm not even sure I want to play this thing. It's so bad. It's really that bad. Give a listen. All right, we're all happy. Oh no, they're saying bad things about us. Oh no! Oh no! And by the way, it's just symbols the whole time. It's terrible. It's one of the worst videos I have ever seen. And saying, oh well, the kids feel bad. You know what? This is like Derek Zoolander. That's what it is. This is like Derek Zoolander. We're literally having the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction run by Derek Zoolander.
Without much further ado, I give you the Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good.
What is this?
A center for ants? What?
How can we be expected to teach children to learn how to read if they can't even fit inside the building?
Derek, it's just a
I
small...
don't want to hear your excuses. The center has to be at least 3 times bigger than this.
He's absolutely right.
That's a meeting of OSPI. That's what it is. That's a meeting. So they have another post that came after this because they got ratioed so horribly, probably trying to explain their stupidity. The outsized emphasis on state assessment scores by some groups and individuals is deliberately misleading. Proponents of sending public taxpayer dollars to unaccountable private and charter schools. Stop right there. Stop right there. Unaccountable? No, that is not true. And I am saying this as somebody who has started and helped start multiple schools. Do you know what you have to go through for accreditation? It's exhausting. It's tiring. It takes years. And they do have regular follow-ups. I would say there's more oversight of what they're doing in private schools than what they're doing in the public schools. You have no idea how hard it is to keep up with all these crazy standards. And they impose these standards that they don't monitor in the public schools. They impose them on the private schools. So, spare me that false narrative. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage. Here's what they say. This false narrative not only incorrectly describes the data, it also minimizes student achievements. Oh, you want us to be happy that they got a gentleman's D-? Is that what you want? State assessments are tools, each with their own design and purpose. State assessments are just one metric. Written papers, projects, quizzes, and tests are other... Okay, stop. Stop. I can't read this with a straight face. So, state assessment tests are tools, but quizzes and tests are more accurate. That's what you're saying here, right? So don't use these tests. Use the other tests. Plus, there's something else about these state assessment tests. They're a joke. They're an absolute joke. He's right in terms of they're supposed to assess where they're at, how we're doing. And it'd be one thing if they kept going up and up and up and up, but they're not. They're going down and down and down. What he's trying to say here is not everybody's a good test taker. And you know what? That's true. But I don't think it's 2/3 of your students across the entire system. I don't think it's that 2/3 of them just can't take tests. Oh, give me a break. This is the second in a series of posts about assessments. The first post outlined different types of assessments and what they measure. This post focuses on state-level assessments and provides sample questions similar to those found on state tests. Okay, I'm looking at this, not challenging. And if you put a kid with a picture of a kid with a computer and a bunch of kids all smiley that you pulled off of Photoshop or you got from some download site, you're not impressing me. You're not. This is garbage. Then they do another one yesterday. If Washington students can't read or do basic math, why do so many high school students take college-level classes? Well, 1, they've lowered the standards in colleges. 2, you have Running Start and other programs that are in these high schools to give them college credits. And 3, you guys are doing pass-fail on a lot of this garbage. So you've lowered the standards, doing pass-fail, and you're trying to say they're taking college-level classes. Well, what are the college-level classes? I've seen colleges that are teaching Harry Potter. I've seen colleges that are teaching Star Trek. I've seen colleges that are teaching absolute garbage. I literally wrote a paper. This was 20 years ago. 20 years ago at Baruch, where I actually went and George Santos did not. I went to Baruch for summer school classes. Now, mind you, summer school, it's a commuter school, so they're real classes, but are they really? This was at Baruch in CUNY, City University of New York, a class which I didn't realize was the beginning of DEI. That's what this class really was. It was about America, the melting pot. Now it was history and talking about immigration and all that kind of stuff. But your final project had to be about, what was it? It was something like different races and pop culture or something like that. That's what the final one was. He was trying to give you something fun to do for your final grade. I wrote a paper on the bridge of the Enterprise. I wrote it about who was in the original cast of the original Star Trek and how it was representative of the world that Gene Roddenberry wanted to see. And I showed clips from Star Trek. That was my final. That was my final to pass a college-level test. I remember one other kid showed us A Bronx Tale. That was what he showed us to talk about his culture or whatever it was. I remember this class. It was 20 years ago. So don't use college-level classes to try and tell me the kids here are better off. Spare me. This is absolute garbage. Assessments are important, but the results are often overemphasized and misrepresented. The results become a talking point that doesn't consider other metrics or facts. Great. What are the other metrics? What are the other facts? If you say you have other metrics and other facts, give them to me. Instead, more graphics that were photoshopped or created by ChatGPT or whatever. Lovely. Then they say this. While there is room for improvement, Washington students are making steady gains. Washington public education system, its students, educators, staff, families, and communities are committed to helping all students succeed. What are the gains? What are the gains? Your enrollment is down. Your funding is down. Your grades are down. What gains? I drove past Rainier Beach High School. It's near my house. I drove past Rainier Beach High School. They just tore it down and built an absolutely magnificent building. It is magnificent. And it is clear that the emphasis of Rainier Beach High School is sports. And we know we've had football players come out of there, and we know we've had basketball players come out of there. But you can tell that this school emphasizes the sports because the sports fields they're building, they are gorgeous. I'm envious. I wish I had that kind of stuff in high school. I did not. And I went to private school. So anybody who thinks the private schools have all the money, and my private school did have a lot of money, they didn't have fields like this. These are immaculate. Beautiful. I drive past it all the time, and I always look at this thing and go, that's amazing. Kid's lucky to have a space like that. But we know what's going to happen to Rainier Beach High School, don't we? Because of Rainier Beach. What you have is a problem right there where you're not so focused on the education, you're focused on the sports. And what you're producing there shows it. And that's just one Seattle public school. It'd be one thing if it was just Seattle public schools, but now we're seeing the same problem in Bellevue schools. And now we're having a different problem in Mercer Island schools. So Mercer Island, we told you the story the other day, went through in great detail. The story about this teacher who was put on leave after allegations of sexual misconduct that went on for years, and they didn't inform anybody about it. And then they gave the guy a settlement to take a hike, and now they're trying to silence the parents. Do you know there's a meeting tonight of parents for Mercer Island School Board? And the parents are planning on showing up, but wouldn't you know that now they plan on changing the rules about what parents can and cannot talk about during open comment, during public comment. They're now changing the rules. Why do you think they're changing the rules all of a sudden? Could it be that the story about the teacher has gone uber viral and you're going to have a bunch of angry parents show up and say, wait a minute, you're supposed to be in charge of safety for our kids, and you guys swept this under the rug? You guys hid it from all of us for years, and this teacher was beloved? When I first posted this story, what was it, Monday, Tuesday, when we first covered this? There are people on that comment thread going, oh my God, I had that guy. Oh my God, I had that guy. Oh my God, I had that guy. And you know what? Unfortunately, these things happen. Forget my usual rant about the safety in the schools. This happens in public schools, this happens in private schools, this happens in charter schools, and not every time do you know it's going on. Parents have a right to be upset, but once again, what are they doing? Silencing the kids. And the Mercer Island School District is one of the few that actually has good grades. But they became victim to the same thing, which is predators go seeking prey, and rather than dealing with it, they swept it under the rug. Why? What are you afraid of? If you tell the parents will be like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. What can we do to fix it? The parents will be your best friends to try and fix it because they will feel that the school that they love was taken advantage of. I know this from personal experience because unfortunately this kind of stuff has happened in some private schools that I know. But here's the thing. Now Mercer Island has lost any goodwill it has because it's trying to silence the voices of those who want to vent and those who want to say, how did you keep this from us for so long? It's exactly what Chris Rakedahl is doing. Don't you dare criticize us. We don't want to hear your criticism ever. We don't care if it's about grades. We don't care if it's about safety. We don't want to hear it. I will remind you that the Washington State Legislature this year had a crazy, crazy plan where they wanted to enact a law that schools could wait 48 hours before informing parents if their kids were victims of some kind of assault, sexual or otherwise, on campus. And the backlash was so bad they had to backtrack on it. They had to re-vote on it. It was so bad. Chris Rakedahl should be saying instead, you know what these posts all should have been? The grades were terrible. The assessments were bad. Here's what we're doing this year to fix it. by putting out a series of posts like this, you don't want to fix it. You're justifying it. And that's how you know things aren't going to get better in these schools, because they're interested in justifying their failed model, not fixing their failed model. There's a saying, I'm paraphrasing here, that the hardest thing to do in sports is go into the locker at halftime of a game that you're losing and redo your entire strategy that hasn't been working for you the whole game. I would have a lot more respect for Chris Rakedell if he came out and he goes, yeah, 2/3 of the kids are failing. This sucks. This sucks. This is awful, and we need to fix it. So we're going to do this and this and this and this and this. This is justification of your failed policies. And how many years has Chris Rakedell been in there? 8, 12, eternity? This has all happened on his watch. He owns this. He doesn't know how to course correct. He doesn't know how to fix it. And that's why your kids are screwed if they're in these schools, because they're not actually changing the things they need to change. Get your kids out of them before Chris Rakedell brainwashes more of them. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Art. Art, what's going on, man?
Hey, Ari, how's it going?
Good, what's up?
Hey, I was listening to somebody talk the other day about Elon Musk and his Neuralink, where, they'd be able to plug in chips and, make people's stuff work that isn't working. And someday it could, you could, totally download knowledge into your brain. And, at first I was like, I don't know if I'm down with that. Until your story today. We're going to put every damn public school teacher out of business.
Well, I'll tell you something here, is I'm not sure that's going to work. Are you a Star Trek fan?
Yes.
Okay, so in Nemesis, when they find the other Data, and they put all of Data's memories inside the other Data, but he doesn't really do anything with them, that's what you'd be looking at in that situation. Just because you give somebody all the information doesn't mean they know how to use it. Like the kids who are always book smart, but not street smart?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you can kind of see my point.
Oh, no, I understand.
If it would put them out of business, I'm down, baby.
I totally get where you're coming from, Art. Believe me, I do. I understand what you're saying. Me personally, I don't want the Limitless movie with computer chips. I worried what direction we're heading in if we start putting computer chips in everybody. That brings up a whole bunch of crazy, but I hear where you're coming from. Great call, great comments. Appreciate you being part of the show, Art. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. A deadly homeless encampment is swept by Seattle and moves exactly 2 blocks away to another playground. We'll tell you all about it. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. So this deadly homeless encampment that got cleared by Seattle the other day, up in North Seattle, it just moved 2 blocks away. So it was in Virgil Flame Park, which, by the way, why the hell do you let it be in a park where kids play, where there are basketball courts and everything else? It moved 2 blocks away, basically to another park. This is Bruce Harrell's model, a giant game of whack-a-mole. Now, for those of you who disagree with me and who hate listen to the show, I'm happy you're here. I love that you're here. But you're going to have an opportunity to prove me right or wrong with what's going on in Washington, D.C. So today we saw there are bobcats breaking up the homeless encampments there, and they're saying to people, my plan, the semisonic plan, that's what's in place in Washington, D.C. right now. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, which is, you want to go to treatment? You can go to treatment. You want to get help? You can get help. You want to go to jail? You can go to jail. But you cannot be living on the streets of the city in these drug homeless encampments and just do whatever you want and have all these crime dens. You can't do that. So you know what? I am sure at some point this year I will be going back to Washington, D.C. And I cannot wait to see the difference between the two. Now, the other thing is to study the data. Did they do what the King County Regional Homeless Authority did and just ship everybody somewhere else and say, look what we did? Look how much better it is. Or are people actually in treatment? Are people actually in jail? Are people getting off drugs? What's the actual stats? Because you can move things around all you want. But I think that Washington, D.C. is doing the closest to what I've actually been advocating for. Give people a choice. You want to get treatment? Get treatment. You want to go to jail? Go to jail. And by the way, a lot of people who seek treatment actually go to jail because they can dry out in jail. And a lot of people told me who got clean that going to jail was actually the best thing for them. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from D in Arlington. D, what's up?
Hey, Ari, first-time caller. Love listening to you, though.
Thank you.
I've got a question for you. How do people become progressives?
I mean, okay.
I went to...
Go ahead.
I went to school for 10 years with Chris Reckdahl. Not Reichdahl, Reckdahl.
Yeah.
We were raised in Snohomish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, went to school in the 80s we graduated in 90. We were known as Cow Pie High. You know, conservative as can be. How can you go from that upbringing to and he got voted into office. He is in government.
Yeah.
How do you be in government, not understand the Constitution and how laws work?
You know how a lot of people make jokes about how when people at their companies get promoted or something, you know, they all of a sudden they don't interact with them the right way, or when somebody goes to the national office of a company, they don't interact with them the right way. You know what I'm talking about? Like they don't think the same way. You go to the national office, or somebody that you really, really like gets elected to a higher position in government, for example, and you go, this guy used to be great and now he's I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? Whether it's government, whether it's companies.
I call that going corporate.
Okay, going corporate. Perfect example. So what happens is sometimes people are blinded by the lights. We know that, right? That happens. We know sometimes people are obsessed with the power or the money or whatever else it is. But I'll tell you what has been my experience with this kind of stuff, and I speak from people who were students of mine who grew up in a traditional Jewish household, keeping all the rules, et cetera, et cetera. Every single one of these kids that turned to being an anti-Israel activist, and there's very, very few of them in my community, but there are a couple. Every single one of them, college did it. Every single time. Every single time. And normally it was something in a relationship in college. Found a boyfriend, found a girlfriend who batted their eyes a certain way or whatever it was, and bought into the ideology almost every single time. So you wonder how somebody can grow up in a seemingly normal place and then throw it all away. It has been my experience that is almost always in college. So what the left has tried to do is make the college model start younger and younger and younger. It used to be everybody knew college was liberal or whatever it was, but they start doing it now in high school and they start doing it in grade school. I didn't know my teachers had political affiliations until I went to college, and I went to a traditional Jewish college, and I still had lefty teachers over at this private college. So what I'm saying is that they're trying to make that model younger and younger and younger, which is why they're doing this DEI garbage in kindergarten now. Yes.
I just don't know how people can. It's almost like selling your soul. I mean, no common sense. The opposite of common sense.
Yeah, well, they don't teach common sense in college. They teach indoctrination in college. I
I
mean, my
No.
Star Trek class was fun, but it really didn't teach me much about life. Appreciate the call, D. Appreciate the conversation. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the kind words. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, more of your calls, more of your texts. You guys are melting my phone lines and text lines today, which I love. Absolutely great. But we're also going to talk about how a whole bunch of people just got kicked off Social Security. We'll tell you who they are when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. President Donald Trump today celebrated the Social Security Act by kicking a whole bunch of people off Social Security, which is the ultimate troll of all time. President Donald Trump has announced the federal government has kicked nearly 275,000 illegal immigrants off the Social Security system in the United States. The president signed an executive order earlier this year as part of that process. During a press conference today at the White House, according to the Post-Millennial, Trump said, "I signed one big, beautiful bill and allowed no tax on Social Security for our great seniors. So now what do? No tax on Social Security for our seniors. And to protect our benefits, we've already kicked nearly 275,000 illegal aliens off the Social Security system. These are many, many people who have already left the country, and yet we are still sending them checks all the time." Now, I have a question. Can anybody give me a legit reason why we shouldn't have done that? They shouldn't be on the system in the first place. What is the legit reason somebody would be mad about that? We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from our frenemy, protester Bennett. Bennett, what's going on?
Hey, way to bury the lead. When did you pivot from Star Trek to Star Wars? Seems like you drop a lot more Star Wars references.
Hey, dude, I go both ways. I got no problem with Star Trek and Star Wars. What's your point today?
Okay, well, speaking of Derek Zoolander Center for Kids Who Can't Read Good, did you happen to see the tweet that ICE was putting out earlier this week? Picture of Uncle Sam saying, "Which way, American man?" Now, you know what I'm talking about. Have you seen
I have no clue. I seriously have no clue what you're talking about. I have not seen it.
Okay. So Which Way, American Man, that's a reference to a book called Which Way, Western Man, written by an avowed white supremacist called William Gailey Simpson. So here, I'm just going to read a short excerpt to give you the flavor of this book.
Hang on a second. All right, hang on. Bennett, just stop right there. Okay, just stop right there. Because I don't know what the content is of this book. I will assume you're correct for the sake of argument. Okay? So you're saying they took some language from a white supremacist is what you're saying?
Right. The Which Way American Man is obviously, and people can Google the name of the book, Which Way Western Man. Now, I did check that there's no swearing in here, but you are correct that it's the kind of thing that probably make Jewish, and including all decent people listening, fairly uncomfortable.
Well, all I'm saying is that, are you saying that they ripped off something from a white supremacist book and put it into an ad? Is that your claim?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's nothing else that Which Way Man could plausibly be referring to, and I legitimately have no idea, like, what is the thinking behind this? It's not going to help recruitment, and all it's doing is giving ammunition to people like me. So I don't know who is in charge of that. I mean, they're known for putting out these like troll memes every day.
Let's do something like this. Let's do something like this, right? Let's just say a lot of people have people who work for them in the intern, especially the social media department, who do some dumb things. I'm not defending this. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it is. But let's take this example for a minute. Vivek Ramaswamy retweeted Nick Fuentes while he was on stage debating during one of the presidential debates. Nick Fuentes, known white supremacist, he retweeted him. Mm-hmm. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy, I'm not a big fan of, but Vivek Ramaswamy was on stage debating. Who do you think was actually retweeting this stuff?
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but even in that case, the institution has to take responsibility. I mean, if they maximally wanted to try and make this right, they can take responsibility and say an individual did this.
I'm not saying you're wrong, by the way. There was a slur which I didn't know was a slur that a lot of people have been using for years until somebody used it on air, and I'm not going to say it, obviously. But there was a slur that had been used that was just a colloquialism, and a lot of people didn't know the origins of it. Sometimes it is as simple as that. And what I will say is, Bennett, send me a link. You got my contact information. Send it over via Twitter or something like that. I'll take a look at it. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from our friend Transit Joe. Transit Joe, what's up?
What's up, man? I'm hearing some stuff that apparently one of these school boards wants to change the rules of public comment like the last minute while everybody's trying to figure out if they can go or not.
Yeah, that's the Mercer Island School District. That's tonight. So basically what happened was there's this big scandal with the Mercer Island School District right now where they buried the fact that there had been allegations of sexual abuse, et cetera, against the teacher for years. They paid the guy a settlement. And now tonight is the first school board meeting since this story broke. And now all of a sudden they want to change the rules on public comment.
I think that's absolutely contemptible without public comment about the rules of public comment. And quite frankly, as long as the public comment is pretty respectful, You and most listeners know I'm thinking of a certain troubled individual who, for all Nazi salutes, is unacceptable. But if you want to go there and say, I think that this settlement is inappropriate, more power to you.
Well,
and
here's
that's what
something
the
else.
message should be.
Joe, let's do this for a minute, right? You didn't even know this was happening. You had no interest in it. And for me, when I found out that they were having this, all of a sudden I got interested in it. Now I'm talking about it on the radio. So by these guys trying to censor people, they have now created their own problem where more people are going to show up to yell at them. So this was a big mess on their side, where if they just had regular public comment, okay, it's one night, you get it over with, it's bad. But now you're going to have this for a while. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's going on?
Hey, nothing much. Regarding that park where the shooting happened out there in Lake City the other day, and now now I understand why you told me they moved a couple of blocks away. Did you know there's a business somewhere nearby where some of them can actually go beg on the street, ask you for your money so that they can go buy some drugs?
Well, that's every street. Hang on, so that's every street.
I wouldn't give them money at all.
That's every street in our area now, Leonard. You should see what's happening to Rainier Avenue. My God, it's only a matter of time till Lowe's says we're calling it quits and we're out of here. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. I call out my friends on the right who are going bonkers over male cheerleaders. We will discuss what is happening on social media when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. There is a controversy going around social media that I'm not even sure has made it to the real world because I've only seen it on social media, and people need to chill out. How did it start? There's a video of the Minnesota Vikings cheerleaders, and there is one dude on the cheerleading squad. Now, I don't know this person's sexual preference or anything, but you know what I do know watching this? This dude is not pretending to be a girl. He just wants to be a cheerleader. Fine. What do I care? I do not care. Male cheerleaders have been around since the beginning of cheerleading. I take you back to the 1930s and 40s when they wore those stupid beanies and had the big bullhorn things and the sweaters with the letter on them. Yes, if you can't be an athlete, be an athletic supporter. Right? That's what we saw back then. But he wants to be a cheerleader. Big deal. Everybody is freaking out about this. Minnesota Vikings are a private company. If they want to do this, they can do this. It's fine. And I'll say something. Is that, for me, I was a drama kid. I was a choir kid. I did all that stuff. I had a very short history as an athlete. We've gone over my basketball history where I was the tallest kid in 8th grade, and then all of a sudden I was the point guard by freshman year of high school. Everybody else got taller, and I wasn't that good at basketball to begin with. I played baseball mediocrely. I was an okay hitter and a really bad fielder. I could pitch, but you know what? I'm sorry I couldn't throw over 50 miles an hour, so I wasn't going to have a professional career. And then I blew out my shoulder doing something stupid on a boat. That was the end of my career at the ripe old age of 15, 16. Choir was great. You know why choir was great? There was a 4-to-1 girl-to-guy ratio. Love them choirs. This is one dude with all the cheerleaders. I understand where that's going. But here's something else. I joined the drama society, too, and I remember this one guy from the basketball team actually making fun of me at one point and saying, oh, what do you know? You're in the choir. You're in drama. And I go, dude, while you were on the basketball court last night, I spent the whole night hanging out with your girlfriend. And that was the end of the conversation. Probably not the smartest thing to say to a guy who's a lot bigger than me. But I don't see this as a real controversy. It is not getting me all excited about, oh, cancel the Vikings or whatever. I don't get why this is such a big deal. I really don't.
Also, it's super old news.
Yeah.
I have a quiz for you, Ari. Of the 30 people on the Seahawks dance team, how many of them do you think are dudes?
Wasn't this a huge thing like 10 years ago where there's like 8 of them or 9 of them or 10 of them?
There are 8.
8.
Since 2019.
There you go.
What year is it today?
Exactly. This fight has been had before, and it was stupid then, and it's stupid now.
Yeah, I was really put off by the amount of pearl clutching. No pun intended. Actually, pun firmly intended. It's like, oh my gosh, there's dudes on the cheerleading squad. My God.
I think before I had a radio show, I had a joke way back when they put the guys on the seagulls or whatever. It was something like, oh, if they want to be equal, make them dress the same way and see how they like it, right? You want to go that route with it. You disagree with me, you agree with me, you want to argue over this, feel free to give me a call at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. I did get a good text from Dave on our earlier topic about the schools. He says you can extend school hours in school a year and bring in the best teachers, but parents are most importantly, particularly the value, and 2-parent families, but we can't talk about that. The truth is, what we can't talk about is how much teaching is done in the home, Dave. You're 100% right. All that teaching in the home. And when you have a broken home, kids slide through the cracks. How do I know this? I came from divorced parents, and guess what? My grades suffered when that happened because I could go from one house to the other and nobody was paying attention to the schoolwork I was doing. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Pramila Jayapal proves she doesn't understand the economy. And we're going to make fun of her a lot. Plus your calls and your texts. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, Gavin Newsom makes a threat he can't possibly follow through on, but I'm here for the entertaining audio. But before we get to any of that, my friends, got some breaking news for you right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI, breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
This week, we've been spending a lot of time talking about the Washington State Fair and the controversy over letters that went out to certain vendors saying they could or could not be there. Let me fill you in on everything exactly as it happened. So apparently there were discussions between the Pierce County GOP and the Washington State Fair about whether or not they could sell their merch, whether or not they could collect signatures for different initiatives. And there were some decisions made by the fair that there were certain merch they couldn't sell their merch at all. They couldn't collect signatures where they usually are in one of the big pavilion booths, but they could be in a different part of the fair that nobody really goes to. That was one fight that was going on. In response, the GOP, after this word of this got out, the GOP actually said, we're not going to the fair. Now, on the flip side of that, there were some pro-life groups. And the pro-life groups got a letter from the fair, which was not great. The letter from the fair was basically saying that the fair didn't share their values and they might be more welcome somewhere else and have different perspectives regarding the booth. That was bad news. So we're kind of caught in the middle here at KVI because we are partners with the Washington State Fair. And when this thing first broke, I think the problem we have, and our last segment actually is the perfect lead into this one about the cheerleaders, the male cheerleaders. Do you want to get mad about something just to be mad, or do you want to fix something? So here at KVI, for us, we love the fair. And when I spoke to the GOP, they said they love the fair. Nobody wanted to boycott the fair. There are a lot of people online who are saying, I want to boycott the fair. But how many of those people are people who actually go to the fair? And how many of those people are just looking for the next thing to be mad about? Yes, I'm calling out my own side. I'm calling out the people who get mad about anything. Well, at KVI, we want to be at the fair. We want to go to the fair. So you know what we did? We said, how do we fix this? And we went to the fair, and we had them on the show. We had the GOP on the show, and we said, can you guys work stuff out? And I'm very, very happy to tell you what just happened. So literally, during the commercial break, I got a statement from Stacey Van Horn, who was on the show on Monday, the public relations manager for the Washington State Fair Event Center, and said this. The Washington State Fair Event Center and chair of the Pierce County Republican Party, that's Dave McMullen, our friend who we also had on the show on Monday, met and discussed the parameters of their booth at the upcoming fair. We have come to a mutual understanding to allow the GOP to continue gathering signatures and selling merchandise at their booth inside the Showplex building. Isn't that what we all wanted? Isn't that what we all wanted? Now, I don't know all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I don't know if this was one eager employee over at the Washington State Fair or one board member. It doesn't matter. This part of it has now been fixed. And actually, they've clarified their guidelines. And I think this is the most important part. If official, nationally recognized political parties apply to be in the Showplex among other paying vendors, they can operate under those policies and guidelines. All vendors at the fair must do all business from inside their booths. Perfect! This is perfect. So problem with the GOP solved. What about the other groups? Other politically focused groups may still apply to be in the free speech area located inside the Green Gate at no cost. So if you want to come and exercise your free speech rights and promote something that's political, you can go on over to the Green Gate. I know some people are going to say they deserve to be anywhere else. Guys, they still have a fair to run, and they still want to sell hot tubs, and they still want to sell scones, and they still want to do all that, and they don't want people being accosted by people with clipboards regardless of what political party they're on, so they're shoving all of them over there. But if you pay and you're selling merch and you're staying behind your booth, you're good to go. They continue by saying it is our mission to continue welcoming everyone to our fair, to create extraordinary moments from guests to partners. I am glad this worked out. And I'll put in a little thing here. It takes a lot of work to get all the volunteers that they need for the GOP to run that booth successfully. What is it, Mike? 3.5 weeks? 4 weeks almost, where they need volunteers every day, all day long, all night. They need the volunteers to be at that booth. And they're working behind the 8 ball. They really have to catch up on recruiting volunteers because they weren't sure they were going to be going. So, my friends, here's what I want you to do. If you were one of those people saying, I'm going to boycott the fair, you won. You got what you wanted. Where now the GOP is saying, hey, we get to be at the fair, and the fair is saying the GOP gets to be here, and you got that. So now you should be posting on social media, so excited that this worked out. I want to see you post it with the same fervor that you posted it the first time. And here's something else, by the way. I want you guys to go volunteer for the Pierce County GOP. I want them to have as many volunteers as they've ever had in there. I want them to not know what to do with all the volunteers they got this year because this has been worked out. Because here's the problem, guys. This fight, people know about it. If they can't put a booth together, or if it looks lackluster and doesn't look as it has in years past, the narrative from the other side will be, oh, there's not that many Republicans anyway. Oh, all that trouble over just this? No. Even if you don't live in Pierce County, if you're going to Washington State Fair, say, hey, I'm going to be there with my family on such and such a date. We're happy to volunteer for a couple hours, and you may even get free fair tickets out of it. I don't know. But I'm not promising that. Not promising that at all, what the GOP does or doesn't do for their volunteers. But what I am telling you, go to the Pierce County GOP website, contact them, and say, I want to volunteer for the fair. Because now we got exactly what we wanted, a return to the status quo. And it wasn't the outrage that did it. It was, how can we fix this? And unfortunately, that is something that is missing from politics all too often. I'd rather be mad about something than fix something. If politicians want to fix Social Security, it would be fixed. If politicians want to fix immigration policy, it would be fixed. They fight about Social Security because they like the issue and they can fundraise off it, regardless of what your political party is. Medicaid, Medicare, no different. I will say is that you're hearing all the suggestions of how to fix it from one side and not hearing any from the other side and just hearing demonization. But can we actually say, let's go fix something? I think this is the perfect solution. I wish it hadn't happened in the first place. I wish it hadn't happened in the first place. But you know what? Now you've got a clear policy. Now you've got what you want. So my question is, are you literally going to put your money where your mouth is? Are you going to go, instead of posting on social media, are you going to go buy a scone? Are you going to go to the fair this year? KVI will be at the fair for Military Mondays every Monday of the fair. Mike and I are going to be there certain days. Zach and Phil are going to be there certain days. We're excited to be at the fair. We're excited to see you. I'm excited to see the GOP booth because I love their t-shirts and I love their flags and I always buy fun stuff there. I absolutely love it, and you can sign the initiatives. This is win-win for everybody. If you agree or disagree, give me a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This from the 253. I will now spend my $300 to $500 at the fair. Glad they did the right thing. That's that's how easy it is, guys. That is how easy it is.
All the folks that have been commenting, throughout the week since that news initially broke, and since we saw that letter, and since we've been talking about it. Because, Ari, you and I have taken some heat for just kind of trying to present both sides of it. Like, people were mad at us because we had Stacy from the fair on, that kind of thing. And I feel like those folks in particular have a choice. You can be a part of the solution, or you can continue to stay mad because you just want to be mad.
Yes, you're 100. I could not have said it better myself, Mike. I just ranted for 10 minutes? You said my entire message in 30 seconds. Mike's very concise like that. I like to ramble. I talk a lot. That's what I do. I'm a talk show
You got
host.
a lot more time to fill. I'm just like the seasoning that comes in. It's like, ooh, paprika. Oh, you know what? This needs a shot of oregano.
Spicy thing.
Yeah,
That's
two
spicy
shakes is
thing.
too much. Bam,
Yes.
kick it up a notch.
Yes, I'm the Swedish chef. You're the lobster. Wait, then I'm cooking you. That doesn't make sense. That's not how this works. No, that is a bad analogy, Hoffman. Bad analogy. The meatballs. No. Okay, but here's the thing, guys. This is huge news. This is good news. Should the controversy have happened? No, but it's been resolved. Now, if you think it hasn't been resolved, you be in touch with us. You be in touch with us and tell us what you think the problem is. I'm going to invite Stacy back on the show. I'm going to invite Dave back on the show as soon as I'm off air today. And I'm going to say, you want to come on the show and talk about it? Happy to do that. But I think right now what we need is a call for volunteers. We need people to go to the fair, and we need people to work the GOP booth at the fair. This worked out as best as it possibly could, and I think for the better, because you have a policy, a clear policy going forward. And you know what else we need to do? We need to go to the fair because we need to look at the Democrat booth and go, why are the Democrats all alone? No friends. No, don't do that. Do not go over there and do that. Do not do that. Don't do that. I just kind of look from afar and giggle, and I find it very entertaining. But come see us at the fair. Go see the GOP booth at the fair. This worked out great. And the Pierce County GOP is going to need your help. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from Dave in Puyallup. Dave, what's going on? You going to the fair this year?
No.
Why are you not going to the fair, Dave?
Because when it stopped being the Puyallup Fair, then it became a political fair.
Okay, so you don't like the Washington State Fair, but Dave, we literally just solved the politics. Don't you want to go to the fair now and get a scone?
No.
Okay.
I can get them from Costco.
Okay. All right, Dave. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I got a question for you. Have you heard about Amazon just launching a new? It's like a Fitbit. It's a micro recorder that goes on your wrist like a watch.
Well, I mean, don't all the tech companies have these guys?
No, this was just launched, and apparently it records all your when you start talking. It records all your conversations, including the people around you.
All right, hang on a second. I got to tell you a sad state of affairs here, Dave. Every electronic device you have does that. How do I know this? And watch, this is going to happen again. So on the Jewish Sabbath, I do not use electronics. You're with me? I don't use electronics at all.
Yeah.
I have this thermostat, which is it's tied into Amazon somehow. But the thermostat is in the room where my dining room is. And over the Sabbath, when I am not using electronics, I was talking with my friends about my Purim costume. That's Jewish Halloween, okay? And Endgame had just come out, and I joked I wanted to be Fat Thor for Jewish Halloween, okay? And what happens, wouldn't you know, when I signed back on after Sabbath, you know what was waiting for me? Ads for Fat Thor costumes. So I'm saying all of your electronic devices are listening to you.
I guess my question is this is being touted as something for protection for your children. But the question I have is, if it's being loaded to the cloud, then who's monitoring what's being said, and at what point do they use that as a weapon against those people that they want to come against?
I agree with you, but think about this for a second, the TikTok ban, right? So we don't want the Chinese having all of our data, but it's okay for Facebook to have it and sell it to China. I mean, look, I don't like the TikTok thing. I don't like that we're allowing it. Let me be perfectly clear about it. But what's the difference? What, you think Elon Musk doesn't have all of our information through Twitter and X? Of course he does. So this is the problem where you get into a huge thing about privacy laws, or here's something else when you go to the airport. you'd notice that now they're taking your picture at the airport. And there's a big sign that says, "We delete all the pictures." Sure you do. Sure you do. I'm sure that you guys do. So what are you comparing it to verify? What are you checking out there? What database is it looking at? But we delete your pictures. This is a discussion that is going to outlive you and me, Dave, but I appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Dave says over on the text line, this whole fair story seems like a massive misunderstanding that got blown up because of social media gut reaction outrage and cancel culture. Glad the grown-ups got together and figured it out. Here's one from the 253. Hey, Ari, I already planned on going. Didn't agree with the stance the fair had, but still want to go for my kids. My oldest keeps asking me when we're going. We'll be stopping by the GOP booth to show support. I'll also ask you, 253, stop by the KVI booth if you're there on a Monday. Come on a Monday. That way you can see us out at the fair. Here's one from Ken. I'm glad it was figured out and the GOP gets their place. There's so many other things to be mad about. Exactly. So many other things to be mad about. This one here from Carol. Do you know if the Evergreen State Fair in Monroe is going to do the same crazy stuff like Puyallup? Well, we fixed the stuff with Puyallup, right? And I don't know about any other fair stuff, but I'll tell you what, why don't you ask? Seriously, Carol, ask. Reach out and ask. Jackie says, let us know which day you're going to be at the fair. Jackie, we'll be putting up that schedule. Mike, I don't think either of us are going to be there on Labor Day, but KVI will. It's going to be the other weeks we're going to be there.
No, I'm going on Labor Day.
Oh, you are going on Labor Day?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're going on Labor Day. I'm going the next 2 Mondays, I think it is, right? Back to back?
I think so.
I think that's what
we're for sure going on the 8th. We still have to talk about the 15th.
Right. I don't want to give anybody fake news, so here's the thing.
Well, regardless, the KVI booth will be there all 3 Mondays for Military Appreciation Mondays.
Yes.
We just haven't figured out our staff schedule
Exactly.
yet. Because up until right now, there was a distinct possibility that we weren't going to go. In fact, it was a possibility that our entire company, Lotus Seattle, would be pulling our support for the fair.
Yeah.
So we've been kind of in this limbo spot all week.
Right.
In fact, actually, I wonder if our promotions director even knows that this has happened.
He knows. He's CC'd on the same emails I am.
Oh,
he knows,
wonderful.
and he's
Well,
responding. But I'll tell you this
wonderful.
also is like, I know some of you, the skeptics out there, are saying, well, of course you want to fix this. You guys are partners. I'll tell you something, guys.
Yeah.
Yes. But let me emphasize this. We love the fair, and we love what we do, and we love the GOP. And for us, we were in a bad situation where we're stuck between 2 things that we love, and we wanted to fix the situation. So I could have gone on air on Monday and said, burn it all down, which would be true Ari Hoffman style, which is what we normally do.
We talked about it.
We did. But in this case, we wanted to fix it, and we wanted to fix it for you. Because you shouldn't be caught in the middle of the politics. You should be able to go to the fair and buy a scone and enjoy it. And if you want to go to the GOP booth, go to the GOP booth. If you want to go to the Democrat booth, though nobody does, you can go to the Democrat booth. If you want to do that, you should get to do that, and now you can again.
I saw a tweet that really kind of tweaked my melon also. It said something to the effect of like, oh, man, well, this was just a stunt to boost attendance. And I'm like, fine, think what you want. But if it boosts attendance, go to the booth and sign the initiative.
Right. And, oh, by the way, we barely talked about that. Guys, do you know what initiative is going to be at the fair? It's the one to make sure there's voter ID in Washington. So let's say you're mad at me. Let's say you're mad at the fair. Let's say you're mad at the GOP. Let's just say you're mad. Let's just say you're generally mad. Go sign the initiatives because we want voter ID here in Washington. In fact, before this news broke, you know what we were going to talk about in this segment, Mike? We're going to talk about economy, and we're going to talk about Jayapal being a moron. You know what else we're going to talk about? Scott Pressler. The guy who has flipped all those states, the guy who flipped Pennsylvania for Trump, and the guy who's now working on New Jersey and other states to turn them red. He announced yesterday, as soon as this election over, you know where he's going next? Washington, Oregon, and California. That's right. We've gotten national attention, and they're coming our way to fix this. And you can be part of the solution, or you can be part of the problem. Give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Looks like a lot of you want to weigh in on this. So when we come back, my friends, when we come back, we will be discussing the fair, but we will also be discussing Gavin Newsom's threats he can't follow through on. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Remember, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Pantera. Yeah, another reason. Always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Sarah in Snohomish. Sarah, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, I just wanted to throw a promotion out there for the Monroe Fairgrounds and ask everyone, boycott Puyallup. They have been slimy snakes for years.
Well, hang on a second. We just did this. We just did this thing.
I know.
We just did this.
I know, but I want to throw a plug in for Monroe. Because Monroe,
well, hang on. You can do
ago,
both. They're not competing with each other, are they?
No, they are, though, because Puyallup changed the days that it does its fair to.
Right. But hang on.
The primary one.
Hang on a second here, Sarah. Hang on a second, okay? So, for example, the Mariners play all year long, and occasionally they overlap with the other sports teams, right? Does that mean you can't be a fan of both? Because most people don't go to every fair every single day, right? They go to one, they go to the other. I'll tell you what, Sarah. I'll do this. I've never been out to the Monroe Fair before. When is the Monroe Fair?
Monroe Fairgrounds starts 22nd, goes through the 26th.
Wait, is that September or August? What are we talking about here?
August.
Okay, so that's August. I'll tell you what, just to show you can like both, I will come to the Monroe this fair, which, by the way, I've always wanted to go to and I've never been to before. But you don't need to bash one to support the other, right?
No, not necessarily. But they were changing their times around a couple years ago. They were changing the times around to compete with Monroe because they wanted everyone to come to Puyallup.
Well, that's business.
We're all the way north in Snohomish, and it takes forever for us to get down to Puyallup. So we go to Monroe. And I just want to say, hey, a lot of those vendors that were able to go and do both fairs, couldn't do both fairs. They had to pick one or the other, so they'd always pick Puyallup. So now you have a lot of vendors, because that's how they make their money throughout the rest of the year, is doing these fairs.
I get that, but if they're...
They can't do the entire time at one fair. They have to pick one to do entire time at.
Believe me, I know this. I've worked with some of those vendors before in former lives of mine and other jobs I have. I get that, but at the same time, like, that's a decision you have to make as a business owner. Where's the most bang for your buck? I'll say, Sarah, you can always throw in the pitch for the Monroe Fair. You just don't have to insult the other fairs. Just say, our fair is great, and we have rides, and we have scones, or we have whatever it is, and say, look how awesome our fair is. You know, for example, you know what you will never hear me do on our show? You ever hear me insult the competition? You never hear me do that. You never, ever, ever hear me do that. I say you should listen to Talk Radio 570 KVI because I'm the best-looking radio host. I mean, because we have the best content whatsoever, right, Sarah?
That's why,
obviously.
Obviously, that's why we're listening to you.
Obviously, yes, obviously. See, my wife knows she is married to the best-looking radio host in conservative talk radio. Appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757.
A lot of folks have been asking me on the text line. It's like, well, hey, is KVI going to be out at the Evergreen State Fair? No, sorry.
Yeah.
But our sister stations will be 101.5 Hank FM and Northwest News Radio will also be out there for all of the weekends, the Fridays, the Saturdays, and Sundays during the Evergreen State Fair. So, but yeah, KVI doesn't have a presence out there this year. I don't think we were invited.
Yeah, so I'll tell you guys, if you want us at the Evergreen State Fair, tell the Evergreen State Fair, and maybe you can work something out. I don't know if we were invited or not. Usually we go where the other guys go, so that might be a big how about no. So if you want us out at the fair, feel free to reach out to them and talk to them. This one here, look at this, a lot of discussion here where everybody's talking about it over on the text line. So I'm glad to see that everybody's excited that we're going back to the fair. That's just good news all around. All right, let's get back to politics, shall we? Gavin Newsom threw an event today. Has anybody ever been to the Seattle Theater, the one in Green Lake? That's where they have the Die Hard musical, which I love. I love going to it every year. Really, really tiny place, though. This is a small bathhouse-style type theater. Holds, I don't know, like 100 people or something like that. That's the kind of place where Gavin Newsom had his big announcement today. His huge announcement about how he's going to take on the Trump administration. What is the way he said he's going to take on the Trump administration? He's going to redistrict California. Redistrict California? That place is already as redistricted as it can get. You can't redistrict that place anymore.
I'm already pulled over. Pull over farther, man. I can't pull it. Sir, I'm already pulled over. He's already pulled over. He can't pull over any farther.
Yeah, it's just like that scene in Super Troopers. It's already redistricted. We can't redistrict it anymore. We just can't do it. Gavin Newsom was going bonkers because, hey, if you're rallying for illegal aliens or you're rallying for all these things, where are you going to find illegal aliens these days? At the Democrat events. So apparently ICE was staking out Gavin Newsom's event, and he got super mad about this.
And right outside, at this exact moment, are dozens and dozens of ICE agents. Donald Trump, you think it's coincidental? No. Donald Trump and his minions, Tom Hoffman, tough guy, clearly decided, coincidentally or not, that this was a location to advance ICE arrests.
Well, yeah. Yeah. So's Home Depot. So's Lowe's. In fact, Gavin Newsom had more pearls of wisdom.
He's going to lose the midterms. He knows de facto his presidency ends in 17 months when Speaker Jeffries is back in office. He knows it. Why else? Why else would you try to rig the system? Why else would you make the phone call? He's a failed president. Who else sends ICE same time having a conversation like this? Someone who's weak. Someone who's broken. Someone whose weakness is masquerading as strength.
I'm sorry. Can we just back up a little bit here? How's he failed? I'm asking how he's failed. What? Everything he said he was going to do, he's literally been doing. Has it taken a little longer to solve the Russia-Ukraine war? Sure. Not entirely in his control, right? If at all. Has it taken a little longer to fix the economy? Well, yeah. But he said he was going to do the tariffs. That's a factor. The Federal Reserve not lowering interest rates. That's a factor. There's a lot of wars going on that affect supply chain. That's a factor. But literally everything else he said he was going to do has happened. Everything, including securing the border. What the Democrats are mad about with all this redistricting, what they are mad about is the fact that they know they're going to lose. But my favorite thing is this little troll that Donald Trump did, which Gavin Newsom admitted today, and I don't think he realized what he was saying because it backfired.
Well, I think it's pretty sick and pathetic. And it just said everything you need to know, the setting that we're under. That they chose the time, manner, and place to send their district director outside right when we're about to have this press conference. Said everything you know about Donald Trump's America. And that was top down. You know that for a fact. They'll deny it, I'm sure. Maybe they won't deny it. Said everything you know about the authoritarian tendencies of the President of the United States. I said it a moment ago, wake up, America. Wake up. You will not have a country if he rigs this election. You will have a president who will be running for a third term. Mark my word. I wasn't exaggerating when I said that I received in the mail a Trump 2028 hat.
Trump sent Newsom a 2020. Well, was it Trump or was it a Trump supporter? Either way, somebody sent him a 2028 hat. That's funny, whoever did that. But speaking of rigged elections, what have we been finding out recently about elections and what you guys did in the previous elections? We've been finding out a lot about that. That's not us. That's your thing. That's what you guys do. Yeah. And the fact that you're talking about redistricting California, which is already so redistricted, dude, spare us. This was basically the unofficial kickoff for your presidential campaign, and it didn't go well when you could barely get 100 people in a room. It was pretty pathetic. And when you spend the whole time talking about the other guy, you haven't presented anything you're going to do. You're obsessed with Donald Trump, and he ain't going to be running in 2028. When we come back, Cliff Mass, meteorologist extraordinaire, is going to join us to tell us about how he disproved claims by the New York Times about climate change and also weigh in on a public disclosure request that I got back, which actually included the administration talking about him at UW. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. My friends, the New York Times is up to their old tricks. They are making claims that our state is facing a quote-unquote inevitable mega fire, and all of that was actually debunked by our friend Cliff Mass, meteorologist extraordinaire, who joins us now on the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Mr. Mass, welcome back to the show.
Good to talk to you.
So I've got something that I told you I was going to play, and I told you I was going to surprise you with it. Before we get into what happened with the New York Times, I recently got back a public disclosure from the University of Washington that I asked for a year ago. And in this stack of files that came back to me, this monster file, there was an audio file. Now, the way public disclosures usually work is usually it's a lot of emails and texts and pictures. I've never gotten an audio file back before unless I specifically requested the audio file. So I click on it, and I hear a voice from KVI's past talking to you.
Cliff Mass, thank you, by the way, for making the time to be with us this morning, Cliff.
Sure, my pleasure.
I was out of town when what I call Little Gaza on the quad finally packed up.
Right.
But the circumstances under which it left, I think, represent a low point in the administration of Anamari Causi and did nothing to deter people from doing what they did here, which not only included the encampment, but also included tens and tens of thousands of dollars of damage and vandalism to campus areas and buildings with graffiti.
Right. Well, we have to blame these student activists as part of the problem, but I think the key problem was the administration, the fact they allowed it, encouraged it, and fostered it over a period of weeks. So I think the UW administration bears a very serious responsibility for what happened.
Now, Cliff, I heard this, and I just started laughing because then I went looking for all the paper trail on this. I found that they were talking about your interview and what it could do to their image, but they weren't talking about the professors who were part of the encampment, who were encouraging the encampment, who were encouraging anti-Semitism on campus. They were concerned about you for calling it out. You haven't heard this before. I didn't prep you with any of this. What's your reaction?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. They were in defensive mode. Clearly they were supporting the encampment. They let it occur. Day after day, there was damage around campus, and they tolerated it for weeks, if not months. So they clearly were supportive. So someone like myself who's talking on the outside criticizing them, that it makes them look bad. And I think I understand why they were concerned. They should be concerned. What they did was very, very wrong.
Yeah, and what I find really, really bad is how many politicians were sending them emails to support the encampment. I only found one politician, Washington State Senator John Braun, who was saying, no, you got to take this thing down. Now, there's thousands of more pages to go through in this PDR, but I thought that was entertaining and you'd want to know about it. Switching gears over to the New York Times. So the New York Times says we're all going to die in a huge mega fire that's inevitable. We're all going to die. I remember in the 1970s, they said we were going to be in an icebox, but apparently your research that you wrote up on your blog indicates not only are they wrong, but the complete opposite's going to occur. Why don't you walk it through for us, for many of us who are not as scientifically inclined?
Sure. Well, the story, and it was originally in the New York Times and reprinted by the Seattle Times, was that climate change was going to bring more mega fires to Western Washington. And, a mega fire, they didn't give the definition, but typically when you talk about a mega fire, we're talking about huge fires in the West, greater than 100,000 acres, very, very large fires. And the first thing is, when was the last time we had a mega fire? If climate change was causing mega fires, you'd be expecting them to increase in frequency or intensity. Well, it turns out the last one was in 1902. 1902, and that was in the very southern part of Washington State, near the Columbia Gorge. So number one, we have all this climate change going on, but we haven't had these fires. There's no increase in these fires. So that was that destroys the argument right there. But they they didn't even mention that.
No, of course not. And actually, just to play devil's advocate for a second here, a few years ago, it was summer after summer after summer, we had these massive fires that they kept blaming on climate change. But the thing that I was always looking at was they weren't doing forest management properly. They canceled the contract with the airplanes that put out fires, and a lot of them were caused by man. They weren't caused by some climate change, and yet that wouldn't stop them for saying they were caused by climate change.
That's true, but the story was about fires in western Washington. Not these other fires that that you're talking about. Most of those were outside of this region. They were in eastern Washington, or they were in British Columbia, or they were in Oregon, right? So the story was about western Washington. That's what made it so completely wrong. And western Washington, we haven't had a big fire since 1902. There's no increase in frequency of these fires, but it's worse than that. I did research on this. I did a study that was published, in the peer-reviewed journal. And what I found was that every single one of these big fires in the West are associated with very strong winds from the east, or easterly winds. See, to get fires in the West is very difficult. It's wet here. It's moist here. It's almost impossible to get a big fire here. The only way to do it is to have very strong winds from the east, from eastern Washington, where it's warmer and drier, and have that air descend in the Cascades and warm further as it's compressed. The only way to do it. Well, here's the killer. It turns out that climate change is going to weaken these easterly winds. A number of people like myself have studied this exact question. What is global warming doing to easterly winds? And it weakens them. And it makes a lot of sense that it weakens them, because global warming warms the interior of the continent more than the cool coastal areas. Warmer air is less dense. It causes the pressure to fall. If the pressure falls in the interior, that tends to push more marine air in off the ocean. So they got the whole thing wrong. It turns out, first they didn't mention this easterly winds very much, and they didn't look to see that these winds were actually getting weaker over time. So the threat of these megafires will actually go down for that region here in western Washington. So there was just one major error after the other in this article.
Do you think that looking at something like this was done deliberately? Because this seems to me not to be something you have an assumption, you can try and prove it, you think something's going to happen, you study it. But they got so many facts wrong, according to your blog, that this just seems purely political or purely agenda-driven because it flies in the face of actual science.
Well, clearly they are coming at this. They had a story they wanted to write. They wanted to say something, and they weren't going to do any kind of research to find out whether that makes any sense at all. It's extraordinarily sloppy journalism. I mean, what can I say? It's advocacy journalism, and unfortunately, the New York Times is full of it, and so and particularly the Seattle Times. Their climate lab stories are inevitably biased and poor.
Yeah, it seems like that all the time. Well, since we have you, and you are the meteorologist extraordinaire for our region, what's going on around here? I mean, I thought we had a deal with Mother Nature that the summers would be nice and we put up with those 8 months of nasty weather so we could have the nice summers, but I feel like summer's kind of coming to an end weather-wise. What's happening?
Well, you're going to really feel that way tomorrow, because tomorrow we are going to have a winter-like storm coming in. There's going to be an atmospheric river, this conduit of moisture coming in off of the Pacific from the south and the west, and that's going to slam right into us. So we are going to get substantial rain here tomorrow. Temperatures will barely get above the low 60s. And we could have 3 to 5 inches in some places in the mountains, both on the Olympics and the Cascades. Here in Puget Sound, we're going to get an inch. So this is going to be a shock. And it's very important because this is going to make the wildfire threat far, far less for the rest of the summer. It's going to tend to put out everything that we have and moisten everything up, and it's going to really make having major fire for the rest of the season much more likely. So it's actually extremely good news.
Okay, so as good news as that is, I want my summer back. So are we going to see normal summer again after this, heading into the September and October?
Well, I only have skill a week to 2 weeks ahead. Mm-hmm. But right now, it looks like it will get better. So, we got to go Tomorrow's going to be a washout. Saturday, there'll be some light rain. It'll be cooler, but it'll start warming up, getting into the 70s again. And then it looks like for the week after that, we're just going to have very temperate weather. It's going to be perfect. It'll be dry. Temperatures only in the 70s here in the west. So actually, good weather is coming, but not extreme. We're not. This summer, we haven't had too many extreme high temperature days, and there's none in view at this point.
Cliff Mass, meteorologist extraordinaire for Western Washington, and I would say keeping an eye on this insanity from the New York Times and everybody else who's spewing it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your scientific analysis, and really appreciate your time.
Good to talk to you, Ari.
Always a pleasure to have you. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Pantera. Yeah, another reason, always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Got this text over on the Warrior Injury Law text line from Ken. Ken says, I'm glad that it was figured out. Ken is referencing the story between the GOP and the Washington State Fair, and glad the GOP gets their place. There's so many other things to be mad about. With that initiative for voter ID and the dude coming to Washington and Oregon, he means Scott Pressler. That's the dude. The guy who announced it. Scott Pressler is the guy who flipped Pennsylvania red and is flipping New Jersey red. And he announced that he's coming here. Now there's nothing to be mad about. I am happy as hell. That's great. This one I got here from the 253. Yay, thank you, reacting to the Puyallup Fair news. I've been to the KVI booth in the past, but I'm actually a new listener and love listening to KVI. I love those kind of texts, guys. Those kind of texts make my day. You know, just for that 253, you get text of the day. Usually we give that to a joke that I like or something else, but you get text of the day just for that one. This one here from the 253. Oh, wait, no, this is from Anna in Graham. Right, that's why she has a 253 phone number. If we want to help the booth, who do we reach out to? I might be able to do it for a few hours. Also, I'll be hitting up the KVI booth and say hi. And a reminder, we are only there on Mondays. KVI is only there on Mondays, and we'll give you the schedule of when we're there. So if you go there every day looking for us, you're not going to find us every day. We are there on Mondays. But that's wonderful and great. Reach out to the Pierce County GOP. If you guys want to help, you reach out to the Pierce County GOP, and that's how you can fix this stuff. So reach out to the Pierce County GOP.
Ari, I'm going to stick my neck all the way out there. And if you want to send me hate mail, my email address is mike@kvi.com. I will leave you with this. If you're still tweeting about boycotting the fair, you never actually wanted a solution. You just wanted to stay mad.
Or alternatively, you're a bot who's just drumming up problems. And you didn't actually want a solution. You just want to be mad because it sows discord. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, including our final hour free-for-all, where you get to weigh in on your topics, your stories, and so much more. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card and tickets to Pantera. But before we get to any of that, I'm convinced that nobody in any blue city or blue state wants to actually solve the problems. For example, we talked about earlier on the show today how a lot of you were mad at the Washington State Fair over the fact that there was this ban on certain groups and the GOP couldn't sell merchandise. Well, problem's been solved, problem's been fixed, and yet some of you are still texting me, I'm not going, blah, 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 blah. That means you don't want to fix the problem. You never wanted to fix the problem, and that's disingenuous. Because you just want to be mad, and that's disingenuous. On the flip side of that, we have the Democrats. The Democrats don't want to fix things in many cases because they just want to be mad. Oh, orange man bad, orange man bad. That's all they say over and over again. Trump, Trump, Trump. Russia, Russia, Russia. Jan, Jan, Jan. That's all they want to do, right? Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. That's all they want to do. They want to be mad. That's not how you fix problems. If Democrats wanted to fix the homeless problems in our cities, they would fix them. Do you know why they're so mad at Donald Trump for breaking up the homeless encampments in D.C. and cleaning up Washington, D.C.? Because it's a threat to their pocketbooks. How many people get wealthy off Homeless Inc.? Billions of dollars each of these cities spends on dealing with the homeless. And what do they always say? We need more affordable housing. So to create affordable housing, we're going to tax you and make your housing unaffordable. If they wanted to solve this problem, they could have solved this problem. They realize the grift they created. They're the ones who created it. Oh, homeless, that's too bad. You know, if we only had a little bit of your money, then you know what? We would solve the homeless problem. Well, after what, 16, 18 years of having all of our money, since they pledged they were going to end homelessness in 10 years. And that wasn't just Seattle. That was also California. That was also Chicago. That was also New York. That was all these places. They all made the same pledge because they all said, if you just give us enough money, we can fix it. Well, after the billions, if not trillions of dollars that have been spent, making the problem exponentially worse. Why are they incentivized to fix it? They're not. What they're mad about is what's happening in Washington, D.C., because Donald Trump isn't putting up with the grift anymore. Now, he may not be doing it for that reason. He may just say, I want the city to be beautiful. It's going to be a beautiful city. It's going to be the Riviera of Washington, D.C. He could just be doing that. But he is a threat to their livelihoods, to their grift, because of all this money that's going through everything. I saw an article today. I got all excited. It said there's going to be an audit at the Seattle City Council. I'm like, oh my God, they're doing a Hail Mary. All these conservative types to win the election. They're doing a Hail Mary. They're going to do an audit of Homeless Inc. Nope. Audit of police, audit of firefighters, not audit of Homeless Inc. You guys want to save money and solve your budget issues? Cut the funding for Homeless Inc. It's not making anything better. It's only making things worse. How do we know? That deadly encampment in North Seattle, where there was a shooting over the weekend where 2 people were killed, it just moved 2 blocks away. They came in, they swept it, moved 2 blocks away. And by the way, their sweeping of these things doesn't actually fix anything. To actually clear the area of a homeless encampment, you have to dig, 2 feet, I think it is, down, redo the topsoil because so much garbage has gotten in there, so much waste has gotten in there, so many needles have gotten in there. You got to actually turn that stuff up. I wouldn't let my kids play in a place where there was a homeless encampment because they're not actually doing that. But also, we know they just set up a couple blocks away. That's what they do every single time. They're not interested in solving it. They're interested in perpetuating it. Fox 13 was talking to a whole bunch of parents angry about how bad things got in their area with this park.
2 men are dead after a shooting near a popular park in North Seattle. Parents who live nearby say earlier this summer they made it clear to city leaders there were serious issues in the area, but they say their concerns were never addressed.
Fox 13's Alejandro Guzman joins us now. Ali, you took those concerns straight to Mayor Bruce Harrell.
We did, and first of all, I can tell you that this, for many families in this North Seattle neighborhood, the Virgil Flame Park is the heart of the community. This is where children can come bike, play, and of course, celebrate their birthdays. But as you are now about to see here, it now sits empty in the wake of a deadly shooting near a growing homeless encampment. Police were called out around 6 p.m. Monday. When they arrived, they found two men with gunshot wounds, a 40-year-old man who died at the park while a 33-year-old man was taken to the hospital and later died. Neighbors in the area say things started to take a turn for the worse back in June when the encampment popped up and started growing. Many families say they now avoid the park altogether. A group of mothers who lives right across the street, they're now speaking out anonymously out of fear for them and their families. One of them tells me that their 2-year-old son was with their 13-year-old sitter at the park when shots rang out.
My heart sunk. I was just devastated that I'm really scared and upset that this is what's happening, that I, had put that my son, both my son and this, other kid, 13-year-old kid, in danger. And, I luckily my son is young enough that he doesn't really understand what's going on, but for the babysitter to have witnessed that's so awful. I feel so terrible for her.
I don't feel safe. I'm worried about the future of our community. I want us to get to a point where we're back at the park and we can restore faith in it and, just make it vibrant like it had been a few months ago.
Parents say within a week of noticing the trash piles and alcohol, violence, and drug use, they reached out to city leaders, including Mayor Bruce Harrell, by email. They say they wanted a safe space for their kids to play, and they put in requests to have something done about the encampment at the park. But they tell Fox 13 they never heard back. So I asked Mayor Harrell myself why their emails went unanswered. Here's what he had to say about that.
Just a few weeks ago, that encampment was cleared, and so we are responding to the best we could with given the resources that we have, and I think everyone knows we did have a challenge with some of our resources, but we need people to keep communicating to us what they need done. We also, in our sort of a housing first model, we have to find a shelter. So we're finding shelter, asking people to remove, but those communications aren't going unnoticed. That's how we're able to qualify everything that we do.
Stop. Housing first model. The housing first model. So you're committing to going and continuing the same failed model you've done this whole time, where if we just give them a house, everything will be fine. It's a failure. It sucks. Bruce, you're a football guy. What do they say about sports? All you do is talk about your time at UW. You don't talk about anything else. So what do they say about sports? The hardest thing to do in any sport is to go into the locker room at halftime, realize that your plan is not working, and then try a new plan. We know this, right? We know this. You should know this. You're in sports. And yet, you won't do it. Why won't you do it? Why won't you do an audit of Homeless Inc.? Who's getting rich off this? Which of your political buddies? Who do you want their support so you can get elected? Because all the people from the left, they're supporting Katie Wilson. I will argue that if Ann Davidson and Bruce Harrell and Sarah Nelson hadn't run this far to the left, trying to appease everybody and had actually focused on public safety, if they had actually done that, they wouldn't be in such big trouble right now. They wouldn't. Because even moderate Democrats would go, yes, great, let's do this. But instead, unfortunately, what's happened is they've lost support of the moderates, they've lost support of the right, who were barely hanging on to Bruce Harrell and were barely hanging on to Sarah Nelson. They've lost all their support. And instead, now they're chasing the left. So you're chasing the failed model. Bruce Harrell just said the quiet part out loud. They're repeating the same failed model. That's what they're doing, and it's not going to change. People are thinking to themselves, Bruce Harrell promised this place was going to be safer, and yet it's not. It's not at all. He keeps saying it's safer, but the homeless encampment just moved 2 blocks away. What are you talking about? Como News spoke to a bunch of parents who were saying the exact same thing. If this place is so safe, how come it ain't safe?
Together exactly what led up to that shooting. But for now, reporting live in Seattle, Karina Vargas, KOMO News.
Karina, thanks very much. Certainly speaks to perception really becomes reality, doesn't it? Seattle city leaders are holding a series of community meetings across Seattle to focus on crime and other issues. At one recent meeting at the Garfield Community Center, Seattle police and others, they really got an earful. KOMO's Theron Zahn has more on that meeting.
It was a night to talk about what is worrying people who live in central Seattle, an area plagued by violent crime.
We've had murders, we've had shootings, we've had assaults.
The meeting was one of 7 community safety forums being held in neighborhoods across Seattle. Many people who showed up at the Garfield Community Center say they don't feel safe all the time.
Walking alone, no, because you never know what's going to happen. Gun violence and stuff like that.
At the meeting, Seattle police, fire, and other city agencies whose job it is to respond to crime and people in crisis.
Violent crime in this city, there's usually something that precipitates that, some type of disagreement, some type of discussion, some type of fight. We have to be better at interrupting that before it turns to gun violence.
Hang on a second. Chief Wiggum? Chief Wiggum's back again. That's right. Police Chief Sean Barnes, Chief Wiggum himself, is now saying that you need to interrupt violence before it escalates to gun violence. Wow! Amazing! Why didn't we think of that before? You need to interrupt violence, de-escalate it. Oh my God, this should be written in a manual somewhere. So brilliant. Oh, such a pearl of wisdom. Thank you, Chief Wiggum. Really appreciate that.
The city says things are getting better, pointing to stats that show reported crime is down. But those are crimes someone bothers to report. Some residents say less crime is not what they're seeing.
I've been here for 17 years, and I used to be safe in my neighborhood, and I'm not safe anymore. The crime has gone crazy.
They want criminals held accountable.
I'd also like to see our prosecutors do their job and charge people with the crimes that are listed on the books.
All sides say talking openly is the first step in bringing safety back to the streets of Seattle. Theron Zahn, KOMO News.
Theron, thank you very much. Now, we know that homicides across the city are down significantly from year to year. The mayor's office says total crime, though, is down just 7% from 2022 to 2024.
Yeah, we know total crime isn't actually down. Why are homicides down? They're at record highs. Where else do they have to go? Unless they're going to get infinitely worse. That's like Washington, D.C. going, oh, homicides are down. How far down are they? Well, they went from 180 of their record high. Now they're down to 172. That's right. They are down. You shouldn't be having any homicides in your city. I know that may not be attainable, but let's give it a go, shall we? Shoot for, I don't know, maybe less than 170? Less than, I don't know, places like Bogota? I mean, come on, guys, really? This is insane. This is insane. And when you ask these guys who they blame, well, let's let Alexis Mercedes Rink, our resident socialist city council member, tell us who's to blame for everything.
When the Trump administration took office and kicked off a flurry of executive orders throwing federal money, our federal workforce, and our civil rights into jeopardy, this body responded by standing up our Select Committee on Federal Administration and Policy Changes to understand what these impacts mean for our city. And month after month, we've learned in committee about what's happening with things like housing construction, concerns about Medicaid reimbursement, the state of gender-based violence services, immigration and legal defense, labor protections, changes in SNAP, and the increasing need that we're seeing at food banks and meal programs. The Trump administration's actions since taking office this year have eliminated any sense of stability or predictability for our businesses and have eliminated or attempted to eliminate whole categories of support for cities like Seattle. Those economic uncertainties and those real and expected federal funding cuts, paired with the existing structural challenges, have made planning our city's budget harder than usual. We've built the Seattle Shield Initiative as a well-researched, thoroughly stakeholders.
Stop. I can't take it anymore. I just can't. Alexis, let me ask you. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to refer to her by her title. Councilmember Mercedes Rink. I know you haven't been in office that long, but you have lived in Seattle a while, right? You do know that all these things have been going on for 18 years, almost 19 years now. Donald Trump has not been in office that whole time. It didn't start with him. It didn't end with him. But you're going to blame him for all these problems? Your budget problems are because of your out-of-control spending. Your budget problems are because you taxed businesses, and they left. You didn't tax them, but now you're proposing a new tax to tax more businesses so more businesses can leave. You talk about stability for businesses. You and the mayor are about to pass a massive tax on businesses. Oh, you say it helps small businesses. No, it doesn't. If the big businesses like Amazon leaves, then what happens is all the barbershops, all the grocery stores, all the mechanics, everything that's around that those employees go to, they go out of business. Have you guys not learned your lesson yet? You guys are gearing up for another big tax. You're going to send it to Seattle voters, and they're going to be dumb enough to vote for the thing. But what are you going to do then? Blame Trump? You guys chased away Amazon. You guys killed the golden goose. How much worse do you want it to get? Blame Trump, 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 Trump. You know what bothered me about that clip I played from Fox 13 and the clip I played from Como News? So they're interviewing all these people who are mad about the crime. Who'd they vote for? Who did they vote for? And I really want to ask them that question. Have you been voting for the Democrats? Have you? I know some people are saying, Ari, why don't you just endorse Katie Wilson? Watch the place go into the 10th level of hell, right? Why don't you just let it get sucked down there? And why don't you vote for Katie Wilson? Because I don't want that to happen. It's going to happen anyway. It's going to happen anyway. But here's the thing. I want Seattle to get better. I don't want it to get worse. But we can make a bet right now. In fact, I'm going to make a bet with my audience. President Trump is enacting my plan. The semisonic plan, as I call it. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. That's what he's doing in our nation's capital. I'm going to go back to D.C. some point later this year, hopefully. And when I go back, I will look at what it looks like then compared to what it looked like the last time I was there a couple months ago. And we'll see who is right and who is wrong. You also have to study the statistics. How many people are in treatment? How many people are in shelters? How many people are getting jobs? How many people are getting off the streets? Or are they just being pushed out to Maryland and Virginia? That's the real question. That's what you should be asking. So here, you will be able to tell if my idea is right, or maybe we just continued with the same failed policies of Bruce Harrell and Alexis Mercedes Rink and Sarah Nelson and everybody else. The amazing thing is we have a control group. We have Washington, D.C., and we get to watch it. The reason the left is freaking out is because they know damn well that their time is coming to an end with this lefty grift of Homeless Inc. And if President Trump can prove how well actually enforcing the law and actually getting people into treatment can work in Washington, D.C., that soon voters in other states are going to go, why can't we do the exact same thing? That's why they're yelling and screaming, because they see their grift coming to an end. When we come back, my friends, speaking of grifts, Sound Transit's running behind schedule again. Yeah, it looks like that train ain't going to be going over that bridge anytime soon. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. But first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, coming up at 5:45, your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including tickets to see Pantera. Yet another reason to always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI, left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. I feel like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. Well, the light rail is delayed again. It's almost a joke. It's almost a joke at this point. This one from the Downtown Bellevue Network. The opening of the East Link extension connecting Seattle's light rail system to the east side has been pushed back again. The new target date is April 25th, 2026, according to Sound Transit's June 2025 System Expansion Monthly Status Report. The agency had previously projected an early 2026 start with a potential January 16th opening date. Earlier timelines targeted late 2025. I got a question for you guys. When do you think this thing is actually going to open? Can we do an under-over bet? Let's do an under-over bet on the text line, okay? So my bet of when this thing is going to open is going to be never. All right, let's see. You got to get as close as you can get without going over. So they said 2020, 22. All right, Mike, I'm going to say 2029, if at all. Fair deal? Fair deal. 2029, if at all. That is my bet. What year? I'm just asking for a year, not a month. What year do you think that this thing is actually going to open? Give us a call or a text, 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. The delay affects the segment of the 2 line that crosses Lake Washington via I-90, including new stations at Judkins Park and Mercer Island. By the way, the stations are done. The stations are done, and they've been done for a long time. And you know what's kind of funny but tragic about this? The gates, the big metal gates, like you have on a retail shop that's closed, they've been down for, what, a year now? My daughter, when we drive past the Judkins one, it's been so long that thing's been ready to go. She just goes, "Hey, Dad, when's the new homeless encampment opening?" She just looks at it, she says it. And I always say the same thing. I say, "Sweetie, it doesn't matter when it opens. I guarantee you the escalators are already broken." Because it's Sound Transit. We know this, right? The stations have been ready to go for a long time. But, you know, when you have to get your math wrong time and time again, you have to keep pulling up the tracks and pulling up the tracks and pulling up the tracks. Yeah, I know afterwards they're going to say, "What an engineering feat that we built it on a floating bridge. What a feat of engineering." What happens the first time there's a lot of wind and rain in the winter and you get those white caps out on the water and the water comes splashing over that bridge? What happens the first time? I'm just asking. I know how this is going to end. Here's something else, though, by the way. The other extension on the east side that's already running, which nobody uses because it only goes to 3 places. It's supposed to come over here to Seattle. What happens to those in the meantime? We're running this thing without it actually going anywhere. Is anybody actually using this thing? Sound Transit cites ongoing construction work, additional testing and training requirements, and time needed to resolve remaining issues as reasons for the postponement. Wow, that's not specific at all. So how much more money is this going to cost, by the way? The 14-mile East Link extension includes 10 stations stretching from Seattle's International District to Judkins Park, across I-90 to Mercer Island and South Bellevue, through downtown Bellevue and the Bell Red area, and ending at Redmond Technology Station. A phased opening approach was approved by the Sound Transit Board in August of 2023. Well, now you guys have a section which is kind of stranded. So now nobody's going to be using this thing for quite a while. So you're running the other extension with nowhere for it to actually go. So you're spending all the money running that thing. For what? Really, for what? How many people are even using that thing anymore? As soon as that thing connects to Seattle, by the way, that's when you're going to see crime go through the roof. I hope Bellevue and Mercer Island are ready. I hope they have a unit stationed at those stations. Stationed at the stations. I hope it's there already. So that way, when you see people coming off, you just go, back to Seattle with you. Back to Seattle. We're just going to walk you across the platform. You're going back the other way. Be like Rambo. No drifters here. We don't want drifters here. We're going to drive you out of town, give you a sandwich, and drive you out of town. Meanwhile, a new Wallet Hub report ranked Washington as the 36th best state to live. 36. Wow. Doing great here, guys. You know, Jay Inslee and everybody likes bashing Idaho until they move there. Wait, have we confirmed if Jay Inslee actually moved to Idaho yet or not? We kind of dropped that story. If anybody knows any friends who are real estate brokers in Idaho, we can solve this real fast. I actually know exactly how to solve this. If you know anybody who's a real estate broker in Idaho, I want you to be in touch with me, because all you need to do is have them go through a transaction property search, and you know what you will find? Whether or not the Insleys bought, and you got to look up Trudy's maiden name too. You got to check all of those things, because sometimes they're sneaky. Or look for any companies that Inslee's involved in of them buying houses. That's how you solve this. So if anybody knows any real estate brokers in Idaho, you hook us up. We'd love to know. So the new Wallet Hub report ranked Washington as the 36th best state to live in this year, with Idaho landing second overall. Well, no wonder Inslee wants to go there. He hasn't screwed it up yet. Actually, our friends over at Future 42 have a nice side-by-side comparison. Okay, so let's look at Washington. Here's what the write-up is in this study. In 2025, the Washington State Legislature filed 1,905 bills and signed 422 of those into law. These laws include 20 new or increased taxes to address a projected $16 billion budget deficit, significantly impacting the business community. Key changes include higher business and occupation taxes, expanded sales taxes on services, property tax cap increase, which effectively opens the door to triple the growth rate of annual property tax collections. This legislature also passed legislation to expand the capital gains tax, raise the estate tax exemption amount, increase all but the lower tier of the state's graduated estate tax rate structure. As a result, Washington's business competitiveness has sharply declined. In a recent study conducted by the Washington Policy Center, a state-based think tank, Washington fell from 6th to 45th in national tax competitiveness rankings since 2014, and now ranks 8th in business failure rates over the past decade. The current climate is increasingly unfavorable, particularly for small businesses, manufacturers, and technology firms. These measures have all intensified an already burdensome regulatory environment, and the state's score and overall competitiveness will likely decline in future years as a result. Well, now you know why they're 35th. 45th in business, 35th in your hearts. Meanwhile, Idaho maintains its reputation as a business-friendly state with continued focus on reducing regulatory red tape. The state's economy is diverse, supported by key sectors like agriculture, advanced manufacturing, technology, and tourism. The state benefits from low taxes, continued investment in public infrastructure, and a strong energy reliability score due to its large hydropower mix. Wow! All things we could be doing, or we were doing, and we're not. In the 2025 legislative session, Idaho prioritized infrastructure upgrades and water management. Oh, for all of you saying we don't want to spend money on infrastructure. One trend that merits careful reflection is continued increase in the number of bills introduced each session. The state's population grew by approximately 1.4% over the last year, driven by in-migration of new residents from higher-cost states, otherwise known as people moving from Washington. While Idaho offers a stable environment for business challenges like adequately funding public education, housing affordability, and water resource sustainability are becoming critical considerations for future growth. So they got their problems, but not insurmountable. That's why Washington is where it is. This could be fixed. It's not. Instead, they're making it worse here in Washington. When we come back, my friends, speaking of bad PR for Washington, why are all these people from Washington getting arrested all over the country? You're making us look super, super bad. We'll tell you what's going on when we come back. You'll listen to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, I want you guys to check out the new KVI.com. Got a whole bunch of content up there, new articles, interviews, episodes you may have missed, and make sure you subscribe to our podcast on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. By the way, this headline from Fox 13, I'm not hot on this at all. So it got me originally with the clickbait, but then I read the story. Burglars use tunnel to break into Kingston, Washington Starbucks. And what do I think? I think we're talking about like Shawshank Redemption here. I think there's going to be a big Rita Hayworth poster, and then the warden throws a couple of pieces of chess, throws some rocks, and then you find out, oh, the warden was had by Andy Dufresne. Or maybe it's Johnny Five tunneling in that short circuit too to steal the diamonds. No, this is a hole in a wall. This is a hole in a wall next to a toilet, and they're calling it a tunnel. The burglary happened around 3:30 a.m. on Friday, August 8th at the Starbucks along Northeast State Highway 104 and Miller Bay Road in northeastern Kingston. Deputies quickly determined that the thieves tunneled into the business by breaking a hole through a vacant shop next door. Guys, that is not a tunnel. Breaking a hole in the wall is a hole in the wall. If you promise me a tunnel, I want to see a tunnel. Hamas, you talk to those guys. They know how to make tunnels. Those are tunnels. No. This is a hole in a wall. Also, you guys know it's like sheetrock, right? Landlords move them around all the time. Oh, we got to make a space bigger. We got to make a space smaller for this tenant, for that tenant. And this is not a tunnel. I can literally see the other business on the other side of this picture. Not a tunnel. Burglars ransacked the Starbucks, going through cash drawers, cutting computer cables, and attempting to break into a safe. No suspect information is available yet. Starbucks employees are still calculating the cost of the losses and damages. This reminds me of what happened to the Starbucks I used to go to in Leshai. I would go there one day. This was a couple of years ago. I haven't worked in Leshai in a little while now. This is a couple of years ago. And I walk in one day, and I realize the whole place is under construction. I say to the guy, you guys redoing stuff? What's going on? I was here yesterday. He goes, no, somebody tried to steal our safe. So they broke in, wrapped a chain around the safe, tied it to a car, or I guess fastened it to a truck or something, hit the gas, and when the safe was coming out, it ripped through and destroyed the rest of the store. This is what business owners have to deal with now in our area. Isn't this charming? Yes, isn't it charming? Meanwhile, why are our criminals all over the United States? It's always, see, this is where it's appropriate to say Washington man, Washington woman. This is where it's appropriate right now, where they actually come from. This, according to the Department of Justice, a federal grand jury in the District of Vermont returned a 4-count superseding indictment today charging Teresa Youngblood, 21 of Seattle, with the murder of a Border Patrol agent, the assault of 2 additional agents with a deadly weapon, and related firearms offenses. Quote, as alleged, this defendant shot and killed a United States border agent while he was performing his duties, said Acting Assistant Attorney General Matthew Galati of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. We will not stand for such attacks on the men and women who protect our communities and our borders. So, according to court documents, on the afternoon of January 20th, a U.S. Border Patrol agent conducted a traffic stop of a Toyota Prius on Interstate 91 in Coventry, Vermont. Youngblood and a male German citizen whose immigration status was in question were in the car. Days earlier, law enforcement had taken note of Youngblood and her companion when a hotel employee reported that they were wearing tactical gear and appeared to be armed. The same day of the shooting, officers observed the pair at a parking lot in Newport, Vermont, where the German citizen was seen wrapping unknown objects in aluminum foil. Court documents allege that during the January 20th vehicle stop, both Youngblood and her companion were armed. Youngblood exited the vehicle and without warning opened fire, resulting in the death of one of the agents. For the current charges, the maximum penalty is death. And Attorney General Pam Bondi has authorized and directed the acting U.S. Attorney for the District of Vermont to pursue capital punishment in this case. Consistent with that authorization and direction, the acting U.S. Attorney has filed a notice of intent to seek the death penalty against Youngblood. Now, I have a question. Wasn't this that case where you had these lunatics from the cult, from the trans cult? Wasn't it that one? I'm pretty sure it was. I kind of wonder why that's not referenced here from the Department of Justice. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the cult guys, the Zizian cult. That's what it was. The Zurian cult. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. No joke, by the way. So a leftist cult. Are we going to go after them next? Because that's what we should be doing. That's not the only crime that's happening, being exported from our area. According to Como News, Alexander Lee Rogers, a 51-year-old man accused of murder in Washington, was arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department on Tuesday. Rogers was wanted in connection with the stabbings of 2 people in Longview on August 5th. One victim died. Investigators identified the victims as 73-year-old Andrew Peters and his sister-in-law, 64-year-old Dawn Peters. Rogers had been working as a handyman for the victims. Detectives confirmed that Rogers left Washington following the stabbings. Police believed he was in the area after Los Angeles County deputies discovered his car at a hiking trail in Calabasas on Monday. Police said a security officer spotted Rogers walking by on Tuesday and recognized his face. Quote, initially, we made eye contact, and when he passed by, he bit his lip, which is something that people don't do unless you're nervous, and then his steps increased, so he walked faster. Longview police are expected to travel to L.A. soon to extradite Rogers back to Washington. Less than a year ago, Rogers completed a 20-year prison sentence for attempted murder. Wow, sounds like he was really reformed in there, doesn't it? Meanwhile, Governor Bob Ferguson shared a story from the Spokesman Review about a Spokane County sheriff sergeant who was killed while helping a driver. He was helping them on the side of the road when they were having issues with their vehicle. He shared this article, and Bob Ferguson wrote, "Terrible tragedy. My deepest condolences to the family, friends, and colleagues of Sergeant Salas." And I'll tell you something, you don't get to say that, dude. You know why you don't get to say it? You spent an entire career prosecuting police officers. You spent an entire career terminating police officers. You did everything you possibly could in your time in office to demonize the police. I don't want to hear it from you. Your words are meaningless. You helped fire first responders, including cops, as the attorney general. You were supposed to be the top cop in Washington. Instead, you tried to prosecute them as often as you could, and you were MIA when BLM and Antifa mobs came for them during the defund movement. You don't get to talk about this. You just don't. You just don't. Only good news to wrap up the show. Your good news giveaway, your good news headlines, your chance to win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to see Pantera. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, got some good news headlines for you. This one comes from our friend Matt Gilbert. He posted this over on social media. Beyond Meat is headed into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That's not nice. Funny, though. And Matt Gilbert writes, guys, we did it. Very good. Yes, big carnivores we all are. Very, very funny. Do like that. This one here, keeping it with the food today. Como News says Kentucky Fried Chicken announced that a fan favorite item would return for a limited time after it disappeared from menus half a decade ago. The fried chicken chain announced on Monday that after thousands of social media comments and petition signatures, it would be bringing back fried potato wedges for a limited time. I have some experience with this. They used to have a KFC in Israel. I would always get myself a zinger. What's a zinger? It's the filet with the spicy filet, the fried spicy filet on the sandwich. They have that here, right, Mike? That's something you can get at the KFC?
I have no idea.
You're not a KFC guy.
No.
That's not your thing. I loved that sucker. Oh, my God, it was great. I'll also say KFC in Israel, in Jerusalem, had the nicest bathrooms of any public restroom on that little strip on Ben Yehuda there. So we like KFC for multiple reasons because you needed it right after going there.
See, whereas I thought a zinger is what happens when a mouthy robot comes into the Big Brother house and roasts the house guests for being dummies.
There's a robot on this show now?
Sure is. Well, not now, but there is, yes.
I got you. I'm with you.
Zingbot's coming. Just be patient. It'll happen. And it's always worth it.
It's always worth it. KFC first introduced potato wedges in the mid-1990s as a menu staple, earning cult status in the late 1990s and early 2000s before a hotly debated discontinuation in 2020. Along with the return of the side, KFC announced its hot and spicy wings would also be available for a limited time, with both being available while supplies last. The company said the wedges and wings would be available at participating restaurants beginning on August 18th. Woohoo! Just a few days from now. I can't eat them, but you guys should definitely enjoy those. Also, another food story here. A business is actually opening in Seattle. This is huge. A popular Pacific Northwest ice cream chain has set a date for opening its newest location in Seattle, Salt and Straw. I'm not familiar with this brand, but it's ice cream, so usually that's okay for me. Will open its doors on Friday, August 29th in the Queen Anne neighborhood at 11 a.m. There will be special giveaways for the first 50 guests. Queen Anne? Might have to visit this. And the establishment is partnering with a well-known Seattle chef in the lead-up to their first day of service. Wait, I thought it's ice cream. What do you need a chef for? All right. First 50 people in line will get a complimentary cold brew from neighboring Cafe Vita and a Salt and Straw tote bag filled with products from some of their favorite local collaborators. Salt and Straw also joining forces with Ethan Stoll to offer 2 exclusive menu items. How to Cook a Wolf. Oh, at How to Cook a Wolf. Stoll's beloved restaurant just across the street from the new location from August 22nd and 28th. And affogato with salty caramel and caramel ribbons ice cream from Salt and Straw, along with How to Cook a Wolf ice cream sandwich. Man, this all sounds delicious. The new Scoop Shop will also have a special back-to-school offer from September 2nd through 5th, where visitors can get a complimentary kids scoop when they show a school ID or wear school merch if they purchase a double scoop. I identify as child age. I want my free stuff. Salt and Straw says this is one of 4 openings in the Seattle area in 2025, as a Redmond location opened up in July, and 2 other locations in Seattle are coming later this year. Well, good news. Meanwhile, over on the text line, I did like this one here. Ari, let's support all of our fairs. Puyallup, Monroe, Linden, and all others. I signed the voter ID petition at the Republicans' booth at the wonderful Northwest Washington Fair. That's very, very nice. I do like that. And just a reminder for those of you who may not have been listening earlier, the GOP is going to be back at the Washington State Fair this year. That is the best news of all today. And we're going to be there on Military Mondays. We'll give you the exact schedule. KVI booth is going to be there every Military Monday. We will tell you exactly when Mike's going to be there, when I'm going to be there. It'll be a lot of fun for everybody. Make sure to check out the Washington State Fair. Before I forget, your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler, speak normally, Hoffman, it's the end of the show, has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union, with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots. So future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit madronafinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we're giving away 2 tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. Get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. That's Ticketmaster.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10. Win a $50 Daniels Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 2 tickets to Pantera at the White River Amphitheater on August 22nd. Phone lines are open now. Give Mike a call for your chance to win at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. And I got to say, I'm just thrilled today that this whole thing worked out with the Washington State Fair. This is huge. I'm glad to be going back to the fair. I'm glad for everybody who sent their emails, did their calls, all that. I'm glad for all of you. So now you get to see us at the fair. You get to have your scones at the fair. This is good news all around. That's going to do it for us today, my friends, but fear not. We will be back tomorrow with more insane stories, more exciting guests, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.